What's up, guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Life After Lockup. This is season 5, episode 45. So let's get into it. So, this review is probably going to be short because I was bored by this episode, if I'm going to be honest. So, I'm just going to hit the key points. So, let's talk about Kim and Joey. So, in this episode, Kim finally decides to tell Joey that she is not legally divorced yet. We know when we saw her last episode, she went wedding dress shopping with Tatum, and Tatum apologized for her behavior at the engagement party and all of that stuff, and they were able to make amends. And that's where Kim felt comfortable to tell Tatum, hey girl, I'm not legally divorced. And Tatum is like, girl, then why are we here looking at wedding dresses if you're not legally divorced? You need to tell Joey. So Kim tells her cousin, when me and Joey have date night, I'm gonna tell him. We have it tonight, I'm gonna tell him. So we actually see Kim and Joey go to date night, and Joey's like, what you been doing all day? And Kim is like, oh, I went wedding dress shopping with Tatum, and like it was just nice to see her. And Kim and Joey's like, well, did she apologize? Like, how was it? And Kim is like, yes, she actually apologized for her behavior. Like, I want her in my life just like I want you in my life. So I'm glad we were able to come to some type of resolution. And Joey's like, that's great. Side note, the way that Joey was using his fork and knife, I got so irritated. I know he was in jail for like 6 or 7 years, but I feel like table manners just don't go out the window like that. Like, he was holding his knife and fork like a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old that's learning to cut. I'm like, if you hold your utensils the correct way, sir, you're a grown man. But as the conversation continues, Kim basically tells Joey, I have something to tell you, and I don't think you're going to be happy about it. And Joey's like, okay, let me know what's up. And she's like, I'm not legally divorced. Rightfully so, Joey gets an attitude, and he's like, what do you mean you're not legally divorced? I thought you filed the paperwork. I thought you turned it in. Like, Kim, you have to turn in paperwork in order for you to get a divorce. Like, what's going on? And Kim is like, I did it. You know, you keep going around telling everybody any minute now, I'm going to hit a divorce. So I thought you knew more than I did. Basically gaslighting Joey. And although Joey is not my cup of tea, like, girl, you are dead wrong to have him believing that you are like within a couple of days, you are going to be getting paperwork saying that your divorce is legal. And we are finding out that you haven't turned everything in, or you're kind of dragging your feet. And the thing about it is, Kim's whole thing about like thinking that her divorce would have been so easy is because in her first divorce, it was easy. All she had to do was sign paperwork and she was divorced. But I don't even think Kim had kids in her first marriage. In her second marriage, she had her 2 sons. And I'm looking at Kim like, of course it was going to take longer for this divorce because you have to work out child support. You have to work out visitation. You have to work out all of these things like the custody agreement and everything. So what do you like? Why would you think it would be that simple? So Joey gets pissed. He gets up and walks outside, and he's like, does like an on-site interview, and he's just like, she playing in my face. And he's like, that's not fair because she's always questioning my honesty, and here you are not being honest with me. So Kim did tickle me because she did not get up. She kept eating her food while Joey was outside pacing and getting an attitude. So then he comes back in and he tells Kim, you know, I'm not about to get a job to pay on a house. And he owns like the other half of the house because y'all aren't done with your divorce yet. Now, on one hand, I get where Joey is coming from, but on the other hand, that like this whole situation should not stop you from getting a job. You're a grown man, bro. Get a job. Get a job. Now, in the mid-season trailer, it did seem like there's going to be some, alludingness to saying that Joey might have relapsed. I'm not gonna lie. Joey's eyes in the confessional and the way that he talks oftentimes makes me feel like he on some type of downer. I'm not gonna. And I used to think that about Daniel, but Daniel just talks that way. Because even when he was talking to his cousin Robert, it was very monotone, like not a lot of inflection in his voice until he gets mad. So I don't know. But with Joey, I just be feeling like Joey might have. I don't know. But Kim apologizes for not telling him the truth, and we move on from them. So next, let's talk about Melissa and Louie. When I tell you Melissa is so insecure and it's quite aggravating, very aggravating. So we see Louis on his way to a personal trainer session. So he is training this lady who came there in a full beat of makeup, hoop earrings, and no sports bra. She was like, I'm going to be on TV, but y'all not going to catch me slipping. We see Louis helping her with the ropes, and then we see maybe like one of his co-workers or his friends there that is taking a video of him helping the lady use the ropes the correct way, and so he can advertise his business for being a personal trainer. We find out that Louis wants to be a personal trainer full time because he likes waking up early in the morning and ending his day early in the afternoon. So he was like, it would be perfect if I could get enough clients so I wouldn't have to work at the pizzeria or sell the smoothies. I could just be a personal trainer. But he also brings up how Melissa doesn't really like it because she thinks that I'm doing this to be around other women. So we go away from that scene and we get to this scene of Melissa at her second job. Now, we know Melissa is a postal worker, but she is also a bartender. So she's at the bar. She tells her bar, like the owner or her boss or manager or whatever, hey, is it okay if I leave at 5:00? Louis wants to take me on a date, and he asked if I could leave early. And the lady's like, yeah, sure. Yeah, you definitely could leave early. 5 is fine. It ain't going to be that crazy here. We then end up seeing Melissa's friend Fran get there. So they say hi to each other, and then Melissa was just like, I'm so glad you came here early because I'm leaving at 5. Joey has a date for me. And her friend's like, oh, that's great. And Melissa's like, yeah, because me and Joey haven't really had time for each other. We keep missing each other. He's busy. I'm busy. And then her friend is like, well, did you see what was on Joey's Instagram? And Melissa's like, no, what? And it's the video that we saw being made by one of Joey's friends when he was helping the ladies with the ropes. And she was like, yeah, that's kind of inappropriate, right? And Melissa's like, yes, this is what I'm saying. Like, he could find a different job. Like, he does not have to like work out people or be a personal trainer. And Melissa's like, I don't like this because now it's like my friends are questioning what's going on with my relationship with Joey. And I said, if your friends are that messy and insecure for them to see a man working out another lady as advertisement for his personal training business, then you don't need to be friends with them. That's why you can't be friends with people who are just as insecure as you are. Because that's weird to me. Like, Melissa wants Joey to do all these things. Like, she wants him to take her out on dates, take her on these trips, move to this certain location in New Jersey, and like have this lavish lifestyle because she has provided him with so much that I'm just like, in order for him to do those things, he has to build a clientele. And one thing I do know, as I have a cousin that's a bodybuilder, I know for a fact they make money. Personal trainers make money, and majority of their clientele, whether it's a female personal trainer or a male personal trainer, is women. Rarely, I won't say rarely, they have a few men, but it's not a lot of men. So I'm just like, in order for him to give you what you want, Melissa, you're going to have to give. You also are going to have to let go of being this insecure. It's clear that Louis wants to be with you. I don't know why, because you ain't going to be running up my blood pressure every 5 to 10 minutes because you are feeling some type of way because I look at somebody. Okay, because then Melissa brings up about the yoga instructor, because I remember that one season that Louis was trying to get his yoga instructing license or something like that. Then she got mad about when they went flamingo dancing. And flamingo dancing is very like, I won't say sexual, but it's sensual. Like, there's a lot of touching of the body. And she called the instructor a thirsty bitch. And I'm saying that lady was doing her job. That's all she was doing. Like, are you serious? Like, that you that bothered? So, and I'm like, Melissa's the type of person that will complain her way out of a blessing or block her own blessings, because she, in a lot of regards, lacks self-awareness. And don't get me wrong, I understand that she's been hurt by many of the men that she's been with, because they keep showing that montage of men. But if you want things to be different, that means you have to change your mindset. That also means that you have to learn how to trust others again. Because what's the point of you getting with Louis if you don't trust him? So we then end up seeing this scene of Louis in the car with one of his friends that we saw go help him get the ring. And they are on the beach and they're spelling marry me in the sand. And where they're at, there's this huge lighthouse, and he's like, he wants to take Melissa up there, let her see it, and then propose to her. And his friend is like, are you sure about this? And he's like, yeah, I really love Melissa. I feel like she's the one. She was like, I just hate that we're always fighting. So we actually see Melissa come to the lighthouse. She kind of got an attitude. In this one regard, I'll give it to her, because she has on these stiletto boots, and she's walking into the lighthouse, but the lighthouse like the steps to the top of the lighthouse have holes in them. And I'm looking at Louie like, why didn't you tell her to wear like flats? Like, or at least like wedged heels or like boot heels. She got on like stiletto boots. Like, are you serious, bro? And so she's nervous. We also find out that Melissa is afraid of heights. So she is like, Louie keeps wanting to touch things, and she's like, can you stop it? And I was just like, yeah, I'd have been irritated. So in this regard, I don't fault her. He's like, look over, and she looks over and sees marry me. And she's like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. And she says yes. Of course she was going to say yes. We then end up finding out that she doesn't even know what a 2-carat diamond ring looks like. She just said it because it looked like she thought it sounded good. And I'm like, Louie, you could have just got this girl a basic ring and she would have said yes. Now your savings is gone because you were trying to appease her. Mess. So the next couple is Rock and Britney. So we pick up where we left off, where she's trying on wedding dresses with her friend, and her friend prompted her to call the parole officer. So the parole officer basically tells her that, hey, the state of Texas doesn't like when people try to scam them. And she's like, okay, thank you for this information. Then Britney is like, you know what? I'm getting the dress. I'm getting married. It is what it is. And so she says that she does like an on-site interview where she gets an attitude where she was like, listening to the parole officer kind of pissed me off, because what do you mean I'm scamming? Like, we were going to get married beforehand. But I'm looking at Britney like, girl, people try to scam all the time. Like, I think that is why he or she was trying to warn you, because at the end of the day, you've been denied, it seems like, twice. And now you are trying to find like loopholes to get down there. So I would be wary too about getting married, thinking that that's going to change anything for you. But I can understand how Britney is feeling, where she's like, no, we've been in love all this time. We already planned to get married. So this should not be seen as a scam. So we actually see them at Coffee's place. They're getting ready for the day of the elopement. And so Britney kind of has like an attitude, or not really an attitude. She just seems very like down. And Rock keeps asking her like, are you okay? Like, you excited? Like, how you feeling? And Britney's like, I'm good. Like, I'm here. I'm trying to do my makeup. I'm good. Like, don't worry about it. But then Rock is like in the confessional being like, I know when like there's something wrong with Britney. I know when the vibe is off and something is wrong. So I hope she like lets me know soon, like, what's up. So Britney says in her confessional, like, this is not how I wanted to get married. Like, I wanted a big wedding. I wanted everybody there. This is not how I wanted things to go. Like, this is not what I wanted to be. So Rock and Coffee actually leave, and they actually head to the site where they're going to do the elopement. I guess it looks like they're at a park by a lake, and we end up seeing Britney's friend pull up. So her friend is there to like help Britney do her hair and makeup. And her friend's like, how are you feeling? And she's just like, girl, aren't you supposed to get married once? Like, this is not what I want. And she's saying in her confessional, like, I'm so like all over the place. I'm so indecisive. Like, one minute I want Rock to go to Texas, set up the place for me, and then I get there. The other part of me was like, no, I want him to stay with me here. And then we wait until we both can go. Then I'm like, I want to do this elopement, but then I'm like, no, I want this big wedding. I don't know. Like, I'm just all over the place. So we actually see Coffee, like I said, and Rock meet the officiant, and the officiant's like, I got this. Let me do my magic. Let me do what I do, and everything will be a-okay. But then when Britney finally gets there with her friend, she's in her dress. Rock and her are like in front of the officiant. Their two friends are there, Coffee and Britney's friend, and they're about to like start the ceremony and say their vows and, you know, do their thing. Britney's like, can I tell you something? I have to tell you something. And Rock is like, girl, what is it? What is it? And then the episode cuts off there with them being like the final scene. So I wonder what it is. I wonder if Brittany is telling Key Rock like, hey, I don't want to do this, or hey, I told my abuela about this and she told me if I went through with it, it was over. Or like, I don't know. I'm really wondering what it is that I'm like, why didn't you tell Key Rock at the house when y'all was getting ready instead of everybody getting, all dressed up to go down to the local park and watch you say your vows? So next, let's talk about Zaria and Troy. So we see Zaria and Troy on their way to her parents' house, and when they get there, we end up finding out that unfortunately her parents had a house fire, and the videos that they did show of the inside of the house, it looks like it's going to need a full renovation. Like everything in that house was black. So when they get to the house, we see busted out windows, probably done by the fire department to get the smoke out and stop the fire. Zaria is just like flabbergasted by the whole entire situation. She feels like it has everything to do with the fact that she's been going to the astrologer and getting tarot done. But mind you, they tried to play the story like this fire happened like right after they went home from eating. But when you look at the parents, they don't look the same. Like the dad's beard is completely gone. Like he shaved his beard or it got burned off. Then you look at the mom. When we saw her at the family dinner, she had locks in her hair. Now, I don't know if that was a lock wig or if that she actually has locks. But then when we see her in this episode, she got a full-on fro. And I don't know if that's a fro wig or her actual hair. So I said, I see what production is trying to do, but it's not working. We find out that the fire was started due to like an electrical problem. And it seems like it originated from her brother's room. The brother that we saw, I guess, earlier, if you've watched Love After Lockup, that came with her and her family when they were picking up Troy. He wasn't there, thankfully. He was actually like visiting his girlfriend in another part of town. And like his room seemed to have gotten it the worst because when they walked around the house where his room was, there was no window. There was like a pile full of like, it looked like a bed frame, like like a mattress. There were like his sneakers and stuff. So it looks like his room was like devastated. Now, I've never experienced a house fire or a major flood, and I hope to never have to, because whenever I see how devastating it looks, like when people lose everything, my heart always drops. Like you can't get back like the photos you have if you have like a collection of something, or just like the memories of like your home, or like the clothes, like people have favorite clothes. It's just always so like disheartening to see that happen to people. So I hate that happened to her family. So she is like worked up. Troy consoles her. Zaria's in her confessional just talking about how like she feels like, the psychic said that there was going to be chaos and that there was going to be so much coming. And look, it's coming. She also said we weren't going to be together. And she was like, it will never, like our relationship wouldn't succeed. And Troy is looking at her in the confessional, but here I am. And she was like, that doesn't mean you can't leave. And he's like, girl, are you serious? So Troy is irritated. We then see the dad pull up, and Troy gets in the car with him because he's going to the church, and we find out that they are going to try to do a community outreach or like a community day to get people interested in their nonprofit. So Zaria gets into her car and she tries to call her mom. She says that she feels like her mom has been distant since the fire, and she feels like her mom might blame her for the fire because she told them that she has been going to a psychic, and she feels like maybe her mom thinks I brought the devil or demons into the house and this is how the fire started. And she calls her and she tells her mom how she's feeling, and her mom is pretty much like, girl, I told you that stuff was witchcraft, and don't like mess with it, but we're okay, we're in God's hands. We find out that her parents are staying at a hotel while the house is being gutted and like renovated and everything. And there's that scene. So we actually see Troy and the father go to the church. He's telling him, like, when we have community day, we have the bouncy house here, the food here, the tables here, so y'all have enough space, because that parking lot is big enough to have a community outreach day. So they go inside the church, and the dad is like, so stand up there, and like, what if people are like, hey, we haven't seen you in the community and you have to give a speech, what would you say? And Troy ends up being like, on May I think he said May something 2021, I lost my father. And he was like, the last thing my father told me was like, I give up. And we end up finding out that his dad, I think, had like a kidney disease. And he feels like he was the cause of his father, like, regressing faster because he was always in and out of jail. And he feels like his dad was probably tired of seeing him going back and forth to the streets. And, you know, with that type of disease, stress can cause it to exacerbate itself. So he just feels like, yeah, like, I feel like I'm the cause of that. He ends up being like, I do truly miss my dad, and he wishes he could talk to him. So Zaria's dad feels like what Troy said was so impactful and powerful. Now, they must have cut out what he said, because all he did was tell us about his father passing away and him feeling like he might be the cause of it. So I was just kind of like, what about that was powerful and impactful? like, you know, I just feel like they are trying to butter up Troy so that he could be a part of the ministry in some way. But I am the type of person that believes that if you are meant to minister to people, and I'm talking about in the context of God, because that is who I believe in, but if you are being led to minister to folks, you can't stop that. Even if you're not a part of any type of like organized religion, like the Lord will use you to talk to people in any kind of way. So I just don't like how it seems like they're trying to pressure him to be a part of the church in some capacity, you know. We finally see Zaria talk to her mom. Now, I'm going to be honest, like I said, I feel like her son does not live with her full time, because the way that she told him to go into his room while they talked, and I don't know, it was the way that he walked through the door that was kind of awkward, that gave very much like, girl, stop telling me what to do. I don't live here full time. I'm only here because my actual house burned down. That's just what it's giving to me. I don't know. So they sit down, they start talking, and Zaria is just like, you know, her mom is like her little friend. Like, they talk constantly. And I'm like, do y'all really, girl? But okay. And she's asked her mom about like wedding plans and everything. She was like, she really wants to get married to Troy soon, that she wants a big wedding similar to her parents' wedding. And they actually show pictures. They got married in 1986, and like they had a huge bridal party. And so she was just like, I hope y'all can help us out with that. And the mom was like, yeah, we'll do whatever we can to help you guys out. And I thought she was gonna take this time to like explain to them that she's struggling with paying her bills, but no, she sidesteps that. I actually explains that she wants both of her dads to be there. And I said, both of your dads. So we find out that Zaria is adopted, that around the age of 3, that is when her mom told her that she was adopted, that her biological mom was like 16 or 17 years old and gave her up for adoption. And she's been with them ever since. And here lately, she actually connected with her biological father, and he knew nothing about her. Didn't even know she was existed. And she ended up meeting like one of her siblings, which is like her half brother, and they show a picture of them together. They look like siblings. Like, they both have the same nose and everything. And I was like, wow, so like you really weren't like, you're not theirs, but you're theirs, you know what I'm saying? Because when you look at her sister Zion, she's brown skinned. We saw her brother, he was also brown, maybe can be considered dark skinned. And then you look at her parents, who are both brown skinned. And I'm not saying two brown people can't have light-skinned people, but like the mom said, like the light-skinned portion is like, you know, sprinkled throughout her family. So it does make sense, because she doesn't really look like them. And so we find out that Zaria has always struggled with feeling like she's a part of the family. So actually finding this family has kind of like calmed her down a little bit. And we find out that she actually reached out to her mom around the age of like 18. And the lady basically was angry that she reached out to her, that she was like, it was a closed adoption. I don't want nothing to do with you. And that kind of sent her down a dark path. So she's kind of always struggled with feeling like she belongs and like she's a part of the family. And she's extremely grateful for the family that she has, and that they came and got her, because she doesn't know where she would be, because the fact that her mom didn't want her really stuck with her. She also talks about how, you know, she wants to respect her dad, which is the pastor, but also wants to include her biological father in the ceremony as well. And she needs to find the courage to speak conflicted her father about that. The mom gave encouraging words saying that we never kept you away from her. I was never threatened by her because at the end of the day, you my child. And I've always wanted you to have a relationship with her. And I know it's been hard for you to accept the fact that she does not want anything to do with you, but everything is in God's hands and you are always going to be protected and okay. So let's talk about my least favorite couple, Bianca and Daniel. So it picks up where it left off, where Daniel is coming back after having a conversation with Robert, telling Robert that he's scared about being in a relationship with Bianca. On top of that he's actually really irritated and pissed off that Bianca was telling Robert about their sex life. On top of that she might have a drinking problem. So he walks back into the apartment and he's like, so do you have a drinking problem? Because Robert is telling me that you admitted to him that you had a drinking problem. Bianca's like, no, I don't have a drinking problem. And Robert was just as drunk as I was. They do a flashback where Bianca does callously say like, ooh, I might have a drinking problem. But I don't know if that was her admitting to it. So then Daniel was like, well, did you tell Robert that I don't do well with foreplay? And she was like, well, yeah, you're lacking like intimacy, like you're too like much. And he was like, it's too carnal. And she's like, yeah, like I need you to like do more than just kiss on me. You have to do other stuff. Now, what irritates me about Bianca is that like, girl, he's only been out of prison for 3 days. 3 days. What are you expecting out of 3 days, bro? It would be one thing if it was like 3 months, but 3 days. And I'm also like, if Daniel is not bisexual, pansexual, or gay, the only person that he was practicing on was himself in a sock while he was in prison. So why are you expecting him to like know your body when he's been stuck in prison for 5 years? Then Daniel tells us in the confessional that he's actually quite embarrassed because before he went to prison, he really wasn't having sex. And you get to prison and you're not having sex, or you're not supposed to, but they find ways. And now this, like, I am self-conscious about it. And I just don't understand Bianca not being patient. She ends up being in her confessional being like, I need that intimacy. I'm like, you just met this man in person 3 days ago. Like, chill out, bro. Like just chill. So they end up arguing about the coffee again, where Daniel basically says like, that was a red flag to me, where you think I'm supposed to be doing all this stuff for you and be indebted to you because you came to see me. And that's not how love works. And she was like, yes, it is. And then that's when Daniel lets us know that Robert has a wife, and he's like, that's not how they work. Like, they love each other, but like they help each other out. And she's like, whatever. So it's the next day, and we find out that Bianca and Daniel actually had a conversation that seemed to breed some positive results, where Daniel understands that Bianca feels some type of way about him saying that he should have never proposed to her, and that she's feeling insecure, and that all these little things are making her feel like he's not all in their relationship. So he's like, he has to find a way to compromise with her. So she suggests like, hey, let's go for a walk. And he's like, yeah, sure, let's go for a walk. And he lies to her and is like, oh, I forgot my phone. So he runs back into the house and he grabs this ring, the ring that he got from Plato's Closet that was probably like $15. And they start walking around, I guess, their apartment complex or something like that. And Daniel is getting uncomfortable. Like, you can tell, like, immediately his arms get like, his shoulders get tense and his arms get stiff. And he's just like, wow, this is a lot. This is a lot. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, you know how long it's been since I seen a cactus? Like, oh my gosh, like the sky is so big. Like, this is a lot. Like, you could tell, like, as he was speaking, that he was getting more and more anxious and more overwhelmed. And Bianca's like, really, babe? Really? Like, come close to me. Hold my hand. I'm so glad we're doing this walk. Like, come close to me. Stop pulling away from me. I'm here. And he's like, no, you're pulling away from me. And then it gets to the point where they like break apart. And she's like, what's wrong with you? Just hold my hand. Like, we can't even take a effing simple walk. And like, give me a hug. And Daniel's like, no, you're cussing at me. I don't want to hug you. I don't want to do that. And when I mean Bianca needs therapy because the way that she speaks to Daniel is very abusive. Like, you can't cuss at somebody and be very like disrespectful and then immediately think that they're supposed to be affectionate towards you afterwards, which means that this is a learned behavior that she learned in those toxic relationships that she was in. But she got to get out of that. She just got to get out of that. So he pulls away from her and he decides to walk away. And she starts crying where she's like, I don't even know why he's mad at me. Like, I don't understand. And she was like, I know he said that he was kind of like uncomfortable being in like open spaces, but like it's just a walk. Like, I didn't know his PTSD was that bad. And you would think she would understand seeing like what she went through in her car accident, but she doesn't get it. Like, she is like so oblivious to like everybody else's feelings around her, and that's so like weird to me, bro. Like, she just doesn't read the room. And so we find Daniel sitting in front of somebody's house, somebody's porch, and he's like trying to like regulate his emotions and collect himself. He even says like, I was supposed to do this thing for her, give her the ring, but I messed it up. Like, this is a lie. And he's just like, the open spaces is like very overwhelming and kind of scary, because I've been incarcerated for 5 years where I was in a confined space, and now I'm in this large space, and it's just a lot. So Bianca finally finds him, and she's like, are you okay? Why are you mad at me? And he's like, I'm not mad. I'm trying to tell you I'm not okay, and you just don't get it. And she was like, no, I do get it. But then they ended up working it out and embracing. I'm like, Daniel, get away from her. Bianca, go back home. Go back home. Get away from each other. Please. Please. Like, I don't understand how Bianca lacks so much self-awareness. And it's just like, and she's so like self-centered that it's just crazy to me. And I also don't understand how Daniel lacks self-preservation. Like, he needs to go stay with his cousin, and she need to take her ass back to Florida and act like this relationship never happened. So yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. And as always, remember to be bravely authentic. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know that you stopped by. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.